You totally fooled me, Mary. I never expected you to be infertile. I don't need a wife who can't have kids. So, I'm gonna remarry a new wife. This is what my husband Sean suddenly blurted out as he took me to his parents' house over the weekend. I thought only my mother-in-law would be there today, but there was a young woman next to Sean. He brought this so-called new wife to his parents' house. As unbelievable as that was, the woman said something even more outrageous. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Lynn. Actually, I'm pregnant. She didn't seem at all remorseful. And Sean was just grinning. The situation was truly unbelievable. My mother-in-law, who had been watching us, spoke up. So, Mary, would you please get a divorce quickly? Don't make my son suffer any longer. She was on Sean's side. That's when I retorted. Oh? You want a divorce right away? But we're already divorced? What? Already divorced? Are you just being a sore loser? Sean said mockingly. But this wasn't about being a sore loser. I already knew everything. And that Sean had overlooked something critical. I had to make him regret it for the rest of his life. I'll definitely make him pay. Sean, you forgot, didn't you? Every time I showed a hint of defiance, you threatened me with divorce papers, saying if I didn't obey, it's over. I reflected on that. A good wife wouldn't go against her husband's wishes. So, as you wanted, I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce process the other day. Your part was already filled out on the paper, so it's in process. What? When did you do that? You were always indecisive and under my thumb. Sean stammered, biting his nails. That was a habit he had when anxious, dating back to when we were dating. Lynn gently put her hand on his shoulder, turning to him with a smile like a goddess. Suddenly, Sean's face brightened, and he leaned back towards me. Well, you finally did something right. Now I don't have to bother going out to file them. This makes me officially single. I'll remarry Lynn right away. Lynn's eyes welled up, and she blinked excitedly. I almost laughed through my nose at that. Then my mother-in-law stepped forward, arms crossed, and snorted. For someone who can't have kids and is useless, you did something right. So, can you pack your stuff and leave? I always thought you were out of Sean's league. He's an elite worker at a well-known large company. Someone plain and mediocre like you is no match for him, like comparing chalk and cheese. She started bragging about Sean without being asked. How many times have I heard this since we got married? The first time, I had to listen for over an hour. Her nagging was no less than Sean's. I wish this mother and son wouldn't compete in such matters. Just the other day, the CEO personally praised him. He's definitely on the fast track now. That's my Sean. So, don't show your face to us again. It feels refreshing to cut ties with a failure like you. Like mother, like son, huh? As my mother-in-law's chatter finally wound down, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. My mother-in-law, Sean, and Lynn all stared with their mouths agape. Hey, Mary. Has the shock made your brain useless too? Come on, get a grip. It's embarrassing for me if people find out I was married to someone crazy, even for a short while. Relax. The ones with the messed up heads are you guys. Sean and your mom are so good at finding faults in others but totally blind to secrets. Let me enlighten you. Finally, Sean looked puzzled. Good, he should be more interested. This is where it gets interesting. Lynn is already married, you know. Silence enveloped the room. Sean was the first to laugh. What a story. You disappoint me, Mary. I thought you were smarter than this. Yeah, it's foolish to make up such obvious lies when you're desperate and out of options. It's fitting for you, I guess. Lynn, feeling victorious, wrapped her arms around Sean's arm and snuggled up to him. I could see Sean's nostrils flare at the soft touch of her skin. It was utterly revolting. She's just jealous because she's infertile. Don't be too hard on her. It's pitiful, isn't it? She couldn't have kids and was dumped by her beloved. Oh, Lynn. How compassionate you are. Carrying new life in you and still caring for such a spiteful woman. Marrying you is the greatest joy of my life. What a noble love between a man and a woman. This is what an ideal couple looks like. Mary, you should see this love that you'll never have. You should learn from Lynn. Sean dabbed his eyes, and my mother-in-law, who had somehow produced a frilly lace handkerchief, was wiping her tears. Cheap tears, I thought, half closing my eyes as I watched them. I don't know what you're getting emotional about, but I'm not interested in dragging this farce out. Take a look at this. What's this? Interrupting her moment with some piece of paper. What's the big deal about this? What's wrong, Lynn? Why have you frozen up? What does this paper say, male infertility? What? What does that mean? Let me see. Where had the image of the three of them, who until just moments ago were huddled together in harmony, gone? The trio was now fighting over a single sheet of paper. The paper crumpled from their handling now. This paper, as you can see, is an infertility test result. The reason Sean and I couldn't have kids wasn't because of me, but Sean. I had asked my husband to cooperate with me when I started infertility treatments. Such things are meaningful only when done together as a couple. But Sean outright refused to cooperate, blaming me for the infertility. I managed to get a sample from him through various means and submitted it right away. The results are as you see. I waved another piece of paper in my hand as I explained. It was my test result. It read no issues. The three of them turned pale. Why didn't you say anything until now? You should have told me right away when you found out. That's why you're a failure. Don't take it out on me because you're shocked. I never wanted to reveal it in front of others. But you made me. I shook my head in a what can you do manner. Right when the results came, you started working overtime, going out, ignoring my calls and emails. How was I supposed to tell someone who's hardly ever home? Did you know about Lynn from the beginning? My mother-in-law asked, looking terrified, so I smiled kindly. Yes, of course. Even a fool would notice when you suddenly stop coming home. Once I started suspecting, I had to investigate thoroughly. It was interesting, like a drama, uncovering all the hidden facts. My mother-in-law collapsed weakly onto the floor. My husband Sean stood motionless, staring at me like a statue, mouth agape. I kept a smile on my face and clapped my hands together loudly. Well, no one truth has come to light. Let's summarize. First, Sean and your mom thought I was infertile. During this time, Sean's mistress, Lynn, got pregnant. Both of you were overjoyed and pressured me to divorce, welcoming Lynn as the new wife. I walked slowly around the room while talking. Every time my slippers scraped against the floor, I could tell each of them held their breath. However, now it's revealed that Sean is infertile. Here's the question. If Sean is infertile, whose baby is Lynn carrying? Sean and his mother silently turned to look at Lynn. Her eyes, which were bright and gleaming when I first arrived, now lost their luster, looking flat and dull. A bead of sweat trickled down Lynn's forehead. Her lips, tightly pressed, trembled slightly, and her nervously tapping fingers betrayed her composed posture. My mouth curled up slightly, admitting to myself that I felt a small sense of victory. But Lynn, capable of adultery, was different. Her mind must be wired differently from ordinary people. In a not-so-normal way. Lynn forced a smile as wide as possible. Where's the proof that this test result is real? Sean and his mother turned to me, startled. Perhaps still having the energy to fight back. What a waste of energy. Lynn stood up straighter, puffing out her chest, confronting me confidently. The core of your claim is that piece of paper saying Sean is infertile, right? It's not directly from a doctor, so it could be considered fake, couldn't it? If Sean's infertility is denied, then the child in my belly is genuinely mine and Sean's. You'll take responsibility for accusing me of being married. I thought to myself, if witches existed, they would laugh like this. Narrowing their eyes into crescents and smiling unnaturally with their bright white teeth. Lynn must have deceived and trapped people before. No choice then. I shrugged, and Lynn's smile deepened clearly. Sean and his mother's eyes lit up with hope. I bent down. All three leaned forward in anticipation. Then I reached out my hand. There was a small card on the flooring. I picked it up and handed it to Lynn with a smile. It must have fallen out when I walked around the room. Lynn looked puzzled, but her face changed as soon as she turned it over and saw the written side. Lynn, what's wrong? You're as pale as a ghost. Are you feeling unwell? Sean asked with concern. Without a word, Lynn showed him the card. It read John Doe. Sean fell back in shock. His face rapidly turned pale. Hey, what's going on here? My mother-in-law asked, still not grasping the significance of the name on the card, which she almost snatched from Sean's hand. FCU Director John Doe. Isn't FCU where Sean works? What's Lynn's connection with the company's president? You're asking me to spell out something you already know? You really want to escape reality, don't you? Well, I'll make it clear for you. John Doe is Lynn's husband. My mother-in-law fell to her knees with force. Her whole body shook violently. No, this can't be true. Sean having an affair with the president's wife. If this gets out, Sean will. I know, we just won't tell anyone. She jumped up, grabbed me by the collar. I was a bit taken aback by her sudden aggression. Mary, if you want alimony, I'll pay it. Just keep this a secret between us. Oh, I've already reported the affair. What did you say? You failed. No, it can't be true. It has to be a lie. This can't be happening, it just can't. The room erupted into chaos. I looked towards the window. It was slightly open. This must be echoing throughout the neighborhood. I smirked to myself. Wait. Yes, John Doe is my husband, but the baby in my belly. Lynn was still trying to cover her lies, even now. Her face was covered in sweat, her makeup a mess. I cut her off mid-sentence, closing off her last escape route. It's Mr. Doe's child, right? No mistake about it. It's been confirmed with Mr. Doe's cooperation. How did you do it? I don't remember anything. Didn't Mr. Doe ask you to give a blood sample? He did say something about checking my health just to be safe. Lynn looked confused. The radiant impression she had when she first entered was gone, and she seemed to have aged 10 years in just a short time. Nowadays, they can do prenatal paternity tests with the mother's blood and the father's buccal cells. With these, paternity can be confirmed before birth. No way! You prepared all that! Finally, Lynn collapsed to the floor. Her neatly combed hair was now disheveled. The three of them were in a state of shock, finally grasping the situation. I stood with my hands on my hips, breathing out in satisfaction. Then Sean started mumbling something. I couldn't make out the words, but his expression wasn't good. I braced myself, ready for battle, as Sean suddenly looked up and yelled. Are you kidding me? After whispering sweet nothings, it was all lies? What were you thinking, having an affair with someone from your spouse's company? You're so outrageous. My husband Sean wasn't berating me, but Lynn instead. Lynn, who had been sitting powerlessly, suddenly regained her vigor. Ever heard the saying, no rose without a thorn? You got a taste of something sweet and took it seriously, silly you. Lynn retorted with a dismissive tone. Sean's frown deepened. Oh, are you angry? You've got such high pride for nothing. That's why you're so easy to handle. You never thought you were just being played with, obediently doing as told, just like a pet. What did you say? Who do you think you're talking to? Lynn finally stood up, advancing to within inches of Sean's face. His slight retreat betrayed the intensity of her gaze. Listen, it's because of your failure that our affair was exposed. Who are you glaring at? I'm the wife of the president, you know? My sublime pleasure was ruined by a foolish employee like you, and I'm very angry. Sean took a few steps back and forced a dry smile. So, that's your true nature. I see it now. He walked past Lynn and stood in front of me, then suddenly grabbed my hand. Mary, I've finally seen the light. It was a detour, but I've found true love. You're the only one for me. Suddenly, his lips were hurtling towards mine at an alarming speed. Instinctively feeling terror, I narrowly dodged. Without hesitation, I kicked him in the groin and backed away to the corner of the room. My back was instantly soaked with sweat. Sean groaned in pain but kept calling my name. My mother-in-law, hearing the words true love, sparkled with excitement, fervently defending Sean's plea for reconciliation. Sean, realizing your true feelings is admirable. Just one more push, Mary. There's no man more elite and wonderful than Sean. I reached my limit. I turned to my mother-in-law, who was sending an adoring gaze at her son. You both said it earlier. A person who can't have children is useless, right? I don't think that way, but by that definition, Sean is useless, isn't he? Her sparkling eyes dimmed instantly. She awkwardly lowered her gaze and shrunk in on herself. That should stop her fanciful talk. As for Sean, he was frozen solid. Probably the first time anyone's ever called him useless. He must have always been praised by everyone, especially adults, for being capable. But that's not enough. It's about how and where you apply those skills. It depends on one's morals. It seems Sean lacked those from the start. I looked at him one last time, making sure to keep a safe distance. You were scolding Lynn for deceiving you, but you deceived me too, so you're not in a position to complain. What goes around comes around. My icy gaze brought Sean back to reality. He reached out his hand desperately, still in pain, but I had no intention of taking it. It was too late for everything. Do you understand now how it feels to be called useless? As I gave my husband Sean a full-faced smile, he stumbled but came to me, apologizing. I'm sorry, Mary. It was all my fault. Can you forgive me just this once? I promise to change. They say cheating is a disease, right? It's not that easy to cure. Why would I, now a stranger to you, patiently deal with such an illness? With those words, I finally left my in-laws' house, without looking back once. Afterward, Sean faced demands for compensation from both me and the company president and was fired from his job for ethical reasons. For a while, he maintained his elite pride and behaved arrogantly at home as if nothing had changed. However, unable to manage household chores and missing my regular, disciplined lifestyle, his life quickly turned into a mess. He was constantly at odds with his once close mother. After the president spread the word about Sean's actions within the industry, his job search went nowhere. His debts kept increasing, and eventually, he came to me for help again. Of course, I flatly refused. Now, he's barely making ends meet by juggling low-paying part-time jobs just to pay off his debts. As for Lynn, the president didn't blame her excessively during her pregnancy, not wanting anything to happen to the baby. So, she deluded herself into thinking she was forgiven. She lived a lavish life as the president's wife, but that only lasted until the baby was born. Soon after the birth, the president took the baby away, leaving Lynn with plans to divorce and evict her as soon as she recovered. At night, hysterical cries could be heard from her house. Meanwhile, I found a job and started a comfortable life living alone. A life without anyone attacking me was utterly stress-free. Eventually, I remarried someone I met through work. The following year, I joyfully embraced my long-awaited child. The tiny life was more adorable than I could have imagined, and I vowed to dedicate everything to make this child happy.